And I'm Suze Shaner. Welcome to 30 Minutes. And today my host is Chris Brown, a lawn care expert. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the show. So we're going to talk about lawn care in a little bit, but I also want to focus on the fact that you're an entrepreneur. You've had your own business for a number of years. So can you just take us through a little bit about your journey to entrepreneurism and how you came to that in this particular business?
Sure, yeah. So I graduated from Penn State University back in fall of 94, with a degree in turf grass science. And a lot of people...
How did you even know that? Sorry, I got to interrupt you. How did you even know that that was a thing? I've never heard of that degree.
That's a very common question for me, yes. Yeah. It's a rare one. It's a very niche field, yes, definitely. I was interested at the time when I was younger in learning how to maintain and manage golf courses, because I had spent summers mowing the grass and working on golf courses and really enjoyed it because it was outside, you're riding these machines around. And I thought my boss at the time had the greatest job in the world because he had a little bit of everything. There was some dealing with the members at the club, doing some personnel management, some budgeting, some science out on the course, making sure the grass looked good. So it really appealed to the ADD side of me, where you're not stuck doing one thing all day.
Yeah.
And again, I love being outside. I loved working outside.
Are you a golfer too?
No, I'm not, interestingly.
You just like the property?
Yeah, I just liked the process of trying to maintain it at that level. So like golf greens are extremely hard to maintain at that really short height of cut at a really good level. So I approached my boss at the time and said, I'd really love to do what you do for a living. And he said, okay, to get this kind of a job, you have to have a degree in this.
So as a high school student, you were mowing lawns, and that's how you came to this?
Yeah, I was working at the golf course, cutting the grass.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, and that's how I came to it.
So because some people just fall into it and they just cut, but they don't really, they don't really know the science of it. But your boss knew enough about the science of it to say, there's a lot more to this.
Yes. Well, he had the degree. Anybody who's a golf course superintendent at almost any club will have some sort of degree or certificate or some sort of academic training in turf grass science.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. It's more complicated than you would think, yeah.
I just thought, hey, you just go out there and cut the grass, whatever.
That's the normal thought, yeah.
Like, who thinks about that?
Yeah.
You do. That's why the lawns look so good. So he said, okay, you got to get a degree in it. And then how many schools really offer this?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe less than 10, I think.
So you specifically, when you were in high school, targeted schools for turf science?
Well, it wasn't until after my freshman year in college, really, that I went in that direction. So I had done this job through high school for summers, went off to college freshman year, didn't know what I wanted to do, just did kind of a liberal arts curriculum my first year. And I found myself wanting to get back on the golf course. I couldn't wait for the summer. And that's when it sort of clicked for me, like maybe this is what I want to be doing. And then I ended up finding that Penn State University had a very good program, and that's where my boss had gone, and he was a Nittany Lion fan, so he said, you got to go to Penn State. So I said, okay.
Oh,
and so I transferred. I was in a different school, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny, because my sister went to Penn State, and I visited her when she was there, and I am very familiar with that school spirit.
Yes. It's a little overwhelming if
even
you're
the
not
Rolling
used to
Rock
it,
beer,
yes.
the whole shebang.
Yes. I remember those quite well, yes.
So then you transferred, very specific. So, because I know it's a very big sports school.
Oh, yeah.
So you targeted that school. So it sounds like your first boss was like a mentor to you.
Very much so, yes.
And as you moved along in the industry, have you stayed in touch with him?
Actually, ironically, he's working part-time for us now, which is wonderful.
That's so interesting.
He's semi-retired and just needs something to keep busy, and so he's helping out as one of our quality control managers, basically checking on and making sure that the quality's there with the work that the guys are doing. So, yeah.
How interesting and nice that must be for him. I mean, seeing you first as a high school student, and then here we go, how many years later. So just take us through a little bit about the journey from being that college student, knowing you wanted to study turf science, to, now you're running your business with a partner, but just take us through a little bit about that, how that
Yeah, so I was doing the classes, and then I did summer jobs and internships and that sort of thing. And I enjoyed the work, but as is so often the case, as is the case with turfgrass science, there's more to it than you would realize.
Yeah.
And even though I was learning the science behind it, as I started to learn more about what the job of being a golf course superintendent was, I realized that it was less and less of the things that I enjoyed about it and more of the things I didn't really want to get into. And a very
Like what would be an example? Yeah.
very political. If you're at a country club with maybe a few hundred members, you have to spend a good portion of your time really just dealing with the members, and many of whom, probably most of whom are wonderful, but you're going to have your handful that are very demanding, and it depends. Sometimes you can land at a wonderful club where you're just well taken care of and you're given what you need to do the job well, and it's a nice situation. Sometimes you get to a demanding place where it's just unrelenting and incredible levels of stress.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's one of those fields where if you're at a certain level and you lose your job, whether through your own fault or not,
Yeah.
to find a comparable job, you might have to travel halfway across the country.
Okay.
Because
it's
there's
very
not
specialized.
it's very specialized. It's not like there's another golf course just down the street that's similar that needs somebody in your position.
Yeah.
And I looked ahead and thought, at some point I'd like to meet somebody, get married, have a family, and that would be very hard on a family.
Yeah.
To just suddenly, and I saw a lot of people in the industry doing that. So the shine on being a golf course superintendent started to wear off.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've got this degree in how to grow grass. What am I going to do with that? And the next thing I always did have kind of in the back of my mind, this entrepreneurial itch, this idea that maybe I could start my own business at some point. And so I thought once I realized that I wasn't going to be happy as a golf course superintendent, I started looking down that road, and that I could go into more detail on that, but that's really what led me in the direction.
Yeah. How did you start your business?
So that started by, it really got kickstarted when I met my older sister's boyfriend at the time, who had his own roofing business.
Okay.
And he was doing very well for himself, and I met him, very nice guy. He was just this very outgoing, enjoying life to the fullest kind of person. And
Wow.
I thought, okay, he's a lot happier and enjoying his life much more so than
What's his secret?
Yeah, what's the secret? And all the people that I've worked for in the golf course business are not happy like this. Let me just put it that way.
Right.
They're under a ton of stress.
Yeah.
And he had the freedom. He was running his own business. He was making good money. And I thought, I want that life, not the other life. And so I pulled him aside at one point and I said, if I want to start a lawn care business, what do you think I should do? And he was one of these people who just said, just go do it. Just go do it.
Don't think about it too much.
I
just
think
get
there's
out
a
there.
few expletives that shouldn't go on TV that he threw into it, but basically just go do it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, how much money do I have to raise? None, just go do it. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, you buy a truck on credit, you go knock on doors, find customers, do whatever you have to do.
Just hustle.
Just hustle, go do it. And he could sense that I wasn't really ready to pull the trigger. Like, that scared me, just the
Yeah,
idea that I could go
sure.
do this now. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'll have to save up $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to make this happen.
Get the first truck and all that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so he ended up putting me in touch with his brother, who is Peter Teed, who's now my business partner and has been for the last 25 years. So his younger brother was working at another lawn care company, who was working at a lawn care company, but didn't have the degree, didn't have the scientific knowledge.
Yeah.
But he was a terrific salesman and manager and
Oh.
customer relations person.
Okay.
And so I actually left my job at the golf course. I was working as an assistant superintendent at that point in time. Left that and took a significant pay cut to go work at that lawn care franchise with his brother, just to try to get the sense of whether or not that was an industry I wanted to be in. And I found out very quickly, yes, I like this better. This is, it was different to use some of the same scientific knowledge that I had, but it was a place where I could thrive and really kind of spread my wings and start a business and do well.
So you were willing to take a little bit of a risk with a pay cut and everything, and obviously you were in a position to do that at that time. So,
Yeah.
so how long were you there at that company?
Less than a year.
Okay, it was,
So
it
it
was
was pretty
enough to
quick.
just say, okay,
Yep.
I get it.
Yes.
And then did you start your business from there? Or
The
you went
next
somewhere
the next spring. So I moved there, I think it was March, started working for them, and then by about Thanksgiving I had left, and I got a job literally at a temp agency for the winter, just working in the accounting department, just helping out, working at the accounting department for some company that the temp agency put me with, just to help pay the bills through the winter.
So essentially you were there for one season.
Yeah, yes.
And so what were your biggest takeaways from that?
Well, the biggest takeaways there were really more business related, and I learned how not to manage people. So even though I liked the industry, the person who owned and ran that business was not the type of person I wanted to emulate as a manager and as a leader. Very much by intimidation, very much by trying to keep people down rather than help rise them up. And so I learned, okay, I like how this industry works. I like the fact that there's a lot more potential for me, but I don't like the way he's doing things, and so I'm going to try to do things my own way. And luckily, my partner we were very much in sync on those ideas. And
Well, you're lucky in a way. I mean, so look, I know starting your own business and one that has some capital to it is not easy, but in a way, you make it sound easy. It was like, yeah, my sister's boyfriend, his brother, we got together,
stars aligned.
We just clicked.
Yeah, a lot of stars aligned.
Yeah.
To make it work. Yes.
And so you guys just hit it off right off the bat.
Pretty much, yes.
Wow. And so it also sounds like you very quickly knew what your skills, personalities, what would be good fits for each of you, so you could kind of divide and conquer a little bit in the business.
Very much so. And I think that's been one of the big keys to our success, is that there hasn't been a whole lot of stepping on each other's toes. I've got my things that I have to do, he's got his things that he has to do, and I'm very happy to leave those to him because I'm not good at those things. And he's happy to leave the other things to me, and we just, work well together. We have a world of respect for each other, and we both have the best interests of the business and each other in heart.
So that sounds pretty incredible. So the next spring, you got out there and hustled and got clients, right? Customers.
Yes.
And how quickly were you able to grow and scale the business?
We got off the ground pretty quickly. It's by the end of the spring of the first year, we had about 100 customers.
Is this commercial, retail?
All homeowners.
A mix? All homeowners.
Yeah.
So all residential.
Yes.
So you literally knocked on people's doors.
Yeah, we also did have some brochures made up that we mailed out, and we're able to get some customers in that way, knocking on doors, encouraging people to refer us to their friends, that sort of thing. Just pretty much every lever we could push, we pushed to try to find people.
And so it was just you guys initially, or you quickly hired people to help you? Or?
It was just us initially for a while. By the end of the first year, we started hiring people, but this is one of the early speed bumps that you overcome, and that is trying to find someone who would stay and work with us was brutally difficult. And in retrospect, I can look back and understand that just working with yourself and the two bosses can be very intimidating for somebody.
Sure.
I didn't get it at the time, so it was just a constant frustration. Felt like we were hitting our heads into a wall.
So it was a revolving door, is that what it was?
Yes, yeah. So.
Well, and then also you have like a March, or is it like February? Do you start February kind of, or?
We'll start, somewhere February to March, getting things ready for the season, but we don't start actually servicing until about the end of March. Really, it kind of depends on when the snow melts. So this year is much earlier, but in past years, sometimes it's actually into April a little bit before we can get going.
So let's say March until like November?
Mm-hmm. That's about right.
So that's your run?
Yes.
So you not only have to get somebody to join with you during that seasonal time, but to be willing to come back the next and find something in the interim, so where they can, survive in the interim.
The holy grail, that we're looking for here is some other business that we can just sort of shift to in the winter.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the type of work we don't do mowing or cleaning up leaves or anything like that. It's all just fertilizing and treatment services and seeding.
Oh, that's it.
So you
don't do any cutting anymore.
No,
nothing.
No, we never did.
We never did it. It was always just the kind of the chemical.
Yeah, the fertilizer and the treatment services.
Treatment services. Okay.
And the reason I bring that up is because all of the vehicles we use are vans, which are enclosed, because fertilizers and things like that you need to keep away from the elements. You don't want the fertilizer bag getting wet or it's all ruined. And so we can't do like snow plowing in the winter, for example, because you can't put a plow in a van. It's not going to work.
Right.
You need sort of pickup trucks and vehicles that are meant for that sort of thing. So again, just going into the winter season, it's tough, like you said, to get somebody who's willing to just work March through November and then take be laid off for a few months.
It seems like, what about helping people, if you can't plow, you can at least spread a lot of snow melt or something. Load those up in the vans, no?
It's possible.
How profitable is that?
Yeah, and the companies that plow do that as well. So
Yeah.
a customer would hire somebody who does all of that.
Right.
And wouldn't necessarily have need for somebody who just does that.
Yeah. So you're still primarily residential, or do you do some commercial?
Some, but I would say 99% residential.
So you didn't want to you wanted to completely move away from the golf course
Yes.
because of all the stress.
Yeah, because of the stress and the lifestyle. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, so interesting. So you don't have demanding, I'll call them retail customers?
Well, there are some, and we actually enjoy that. I mean, there's a time where you can cross over the line and become unreasonable. I think that's very rare. Most people are either very, laid back and friendly, and they love the fact that we're doing what we're doing, and they appreciate that we're doing it well. You have some people who are more demanding, but I think within reason, and we enjoy that because that's sort of a challenge to us. Can we do what it takes to make this person happy?
Yeah, that's a great attitude. So there's a number of other companies out there, I won't name their names, but how do you differentiate yourself from your competition?
That's a great question. I think I'll tell you a little story.
Yeah.
Okay. This is one of my marketing professors. Yeah, one of my marketing professors actually told this story, so I'm going to relay it through him.
Yeah.
He lives in New York City, and a friend of his owns a Chinese restaurant. And another friend was throwing a dinner party where both of them were invited. Okay. Hope I'm not getting it too convoluted here.
Yeah.
And he was at the dinner party, and the host of the party said to him, "Oh, this fella, the Chinese food restaurant owner, is in a bad mood tonight, just a warning." And he said, "Oh, what's the problem?" And he said, "Well, one of his managers left and started up another restaurant." So he thought, "Oh, so he's upset about the competition now." And the host said, "No, that's not it. He's actually, in fact, in that culture, that's very honorable that you train somebody and they went off to own their own business.
Yeah.
He's actually upset because the guy's not doing it right."
That is so funny.
He feels like it reflects poorly on him. And
Isn't
so
that interesting?
my professor thought, okay, that's fascinating, just like you said.
Yes.
So he spoke to him later in the evening and said, "I heard you're having some trouble with your old manager." And he said, "Oh yeah, he's not doing anything right. I can't believe he didn't learn anything from me. He's serving after dinner drinks, he's serving coffee, serving desserts. He didn't learn a thing." And now at this point, my professor's thinking, well,
He's giving all these add-ons. He's running up a larger bill.
Right.
I mean, from
what's
a
wrong with
business
that?
standpoint.
Don't people like dessert and coffee after
Yeah.
dinner and that sort of thing? So the man said to him, let me put it this way, when was the last time you came to my restaurant? He said, "It was a couple weeks ago. My wife and I came for dinner." I said, "Okay, how long before somebody came to the door to greet you and bring you in?" He said, "They were right there. They brought us right in." I said, "Okay, good." And you sat down at the table. How long before someone brought the menus? And he said, "The menus were already on the table." He said, "Exactly. How long before you ordered?" 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. How long before the food came? About 7 minutes. And at the end, did it take a while to get the check? And he said, "No, just as we were done eating, they just brought it over on a tray with some orange slices and we paid." And he said, "So in and out, how long?" And he said, "Half an hour, 40 minutes. And he said, "And what was the bill?" It was about $40, maybe $45 or something.
Yeah.
He said, "Exactly. I have to turn that table over and use it 5 times a night to make a profit. If you're ordering coffee, you're going to spend another 20, 30 minutes and spend maybe an extra $4 or $5. So that's how we have to run this business." Now, my professor then said, "Now think about it this way. So that's how that business runs. Now go out to a nicer restaurant where you sit down, a basket of warm bread. You order a bottle of wine. They come over and they talk about the specials for the night. You order appetizers, and you're there for hours.
Yeah.
But the bill might be $200,
Yeah.
not $40.
Right.
So now, in the two scenarios, one of them you're getting a meal, and the other one you're getting the whole experience.
Yeah.
Okay,
One's
so-
volume, one's like a commodity, the other one,
Exactly.
high touch,
So
more, yeah.
When it comes to our company, what makes us different from our competition? We give
Yeah.
our customers the whole experience.
Yeah.
It's not just a treatment.
It's just not just transactional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we get to know them well. We do a lot of educational material. We do a lot of one-on-one. If there's ever a problem on the property, we have a manager who also has a degree in turfgrass science. We've got several of us in the company now coming out to analyze the problem with the customer and talk to them and develop solutions for it and that sort of thing. So they're not just buying a series of applications,
Yeah.
they're buying a partner
Yes,
that can help
yes.
them make the lawn what they want for the year.
Interesting. So I have a couple other questions for you, because I noticed on your LinkedIn that you're currently at NYU. getting your MBA. Is that
I
accurate?
guess I have to update it because I finished in December.
Okay, well, it's
So-
just fairly recent, given you had your own business for 25 years.
Yes.
So, and obviously you've been successful. You know, you've not only maintained, but you've grown. So what made you want to go back to school, and what did you really get from that?
Yeah, I joke with people, but it's not too far from the truth that after 23 years of running a business, I figured it was time to go learn how to run a business. So I found over those years that the School of Hard Knocks,
Yeah.
it has very expensive tuition.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
A lot of mistakes. And now
But you somehow you survived it, though.
we did.
Not
We
just survived, you're
it.
doing well. So
Yeah, we survived it. Well, and I think part of it is that my partner and I are both very smart, but in our own way. And so we had each other to bounce ideas off of, and there was always something. One of us would have the idea, and the other one would say, "Oh, it's awful." No, we were very open with each other, and then we'd say, "Well, why?" And then eventually, you kind of figure out, "Oh, yeah, you're right. It was a bad idea." Or you'd figure out, or the other person would figure out, "Oh no, now I get it." So we had two of us coming up with ideas and thoughts, and then we could sort of stress test them against each other, and I think that helped us to make better decisions over the years.
So is it really
But-
just the two of you? Like you never created like a board of directors or other advisors or?
Well, now we actually have more in the
Okay.
in the management, but in the early days,
Okay.
getting us moved as we grew, and then. But what happened really was we had grown to a point where we were no longer a small little business of about 10 to 15 employees. When you're running a company where it's just you and a partner, in my case, and maybe 10 or 15 people, it's pretty easy to stay in close contact with them. Everybody comes in for the day. You give them marching orders, make
yeah.
sure everybody has what they need. It's pretty straightforward. When you get larger, you're getting up into more in the 50 employee range, and you have a marketing director and an HR director
Yeah.
and an office manager and several people doing this and that, and then you have a training team and a quality control team, and it becomes very complicated.
You got to make sure you're really aligned.
And when you need to go in to order $100,000 worth of new equipment for the year, and you need to get the financing lined up, producing the financial records that they need to be able to qualify for the financing. There were just so many new skills that had to come into play as we were getting bigger, and we both realized that neither one of us was really well suited to it. So it became a question for us of, do we try to hire somebody to be a CEO who might cost us $200,000 a year, somewhere in that range?
Yeah.
Or does one of us spend about that much in tuition to go back and learn how to do this?
And you were the one, you picked that straw?
I picked that straw. I was young. He doesn't actually have a college degree, so that was sort of.
Oh, okay.
And I do love learning. I'm definitely the nerdy one out of the two of us.
Okay.
He's the one out there, loves meeting people and is wonderful with customers and with, really just people in general, very much a people
Yeah.
person. I like to think I am too, but just not on that level.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
But I love learning, and so for me it was a little bit of the business needs this and a little bit of the personal challenge that I was really excited about.
Yeah, and because a lot of people wouldn't have done that at this point in your career and your business. So what have been your key takeaways from that experience?
Going up to the year 2017, before I started that, the biggest growth year we had was about 17.5%, one year over the other. And
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
A lot of businesses would be quite fine with that.
Absolutely, and we would have been
Double
as well.
digits, yeah.
For the last 2 years since I started the program up through now, we've grown 25% plus each year. And that, when you say what are the biggest takeaways, I think really it's just that big picture understanding of how there's all these different parts to a business, how they have to work in alignment with each other, how they have to be all in line with each other, and also what are the shared values of this company, what are the goals of the company, is everything working to support that, are there any weak links?
Yeah.
And being able to think into the future about where do we want to be a year from now, what does that look like, and what are the pieces we need to put into place to make that happen?
Yeah.
And those are larger organizational structural things that take more than I had a few years ago, and I'm glad I went through that program.
Yeah, so we've got a few more minutes. What advice would you give someone who is today thinking about, just think of all your experience and how your business has evolved and you've evolved and grown, and your partner and your partnership with your partner. What advice would you give someone who is thinking of starting out a business, maybe similar to yours, maybe different, but today in this current climate?
Today, I would say right out of the gates, cash is king. You need money. And that seems obvious, but I've seen so many companies go in with these grand visions of what they want to achieve, without really thinking through how much money is going to be coming in and how quickly.
Because you kind of started this without any money, right?
Oh yeah, we had saved a couple $1,000s each, but it was really not a lot. We burned through that fast.
Yeah.
But we had customers we were signing up very aggressively, very quickly, so we had cash coming in the door quickly. And that absolutely got us over those early humps. But you need to, that's the lifeblood of a business.
Yeah.
And you need to get that going right away. You can't think about what is this like wonderful idea I have for something without thinking how am I going to fuel that and get us to that point.
So I have one quick question. So I'm an organic type of person, and I don't like putting chemicals on my lawn. So what would you say about that in terms of what kind of good treatment there is, just to give our viewers any kind of advice on if they wanted like a good organic option?
So organic fertilizers are great. That's a way of feeding the plants.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. There's a lot of things you can't do organically that would be considered part of normal lawn care program. For example, getting rid of weeds and insects. Actually, there are some things for insects that you can do. But getting rid of weeds, you just have to, if you want to go 100% organic, what I tell people is you just have to think about the definitions of what these things are. What is a weed? The definition is it's an unwanted plant. So it's as simple as saying, I want it there.
Some people
now it's no
love
longer
dandelions.
a weed. Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so kind of getting out of your mind this idea of a perfect sod carpet with no weeds in there.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that organically, but that's okay. If you don't need that, then just putting down straight organic fertilizers will feed the plants, a lot of which will be grass, but will be some other things mixed in, and we'll keep it looking pretty healthy. So I think that's really the key. As I said, redefine your expectations a little bit. And then there's also some wonderful products coming onto the market that are not technically organic, but they're incredibly low in toxicity and incredibly safe.
Yeah, because Roundup, I mean, that's a... That's
a whole half-hour show.
That's a whole half-hour show. I'll have you back on another day. But
But there's things that are just incredibly specific to specific pests and problems that have no side effects on other things. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could actually probably do a shot of it and not have a problem. It's not. They're incredibly safe. So there's other options that aren't technically organic, but are incredibly safe. And so I'd encourage you to look into some of those as well.
Okay. So. If anybody was interested in anything we talked about today, how might they contact you?
Well, they can go to the website. It's teedandbrown.com.
Ampersand?
Nope, A-N-D. So T-E-E-D, A-N-D, Brown, just like the color, .com. And there's contact us forms on there, and they can reach out.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. I had a great time.
Yeah. Until next time, I'm Sue Shaner. Thank you for joining us.